I'm taking part in that person's history. Before you, that person couldn't speak a language. Their lives will be different because of something that you took part in. If one day I knew that someone said, well, I had that English teacher. Her name was Natali. She was, well, it will make my life really happy because I consider my job a purpose, not only a job.
You said that you dance a lot with them. What do you do to maintain in that level of enthusiasm?
I pray.
I'm Rebecca Rios, and I'm here at Centro Educacional Brandão in Brazil, where I have the pleasure of speaking to teacher Natali de Sousa Chaves. Welcome, Natali.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So glad to have you here today.
I'm glad to be here too.
I really wanted to know how you got into teaching. Was there anything that inspired you or someone that inspired you?
Well, in fact, I grew in a poor family. I was the fourth child, and I studied in public schools. So I didn't have the chance to study English. But then when I was 13 years old, my father asked me if I wanted to take an English course. And I loved listening to international songs. So I accepted. And the first day I entered that school, I had my first class all in English the whole time. And my teacher was so dedicated, so engaged to make us feel comfortable and understand what she was saying. That I was, wow, amazed. And I said, wow, I love this. I love this class. And when I finished my course, I said, I want to work with something where I can use my English. But I never thought of being a teacher, an English teacher. I have a degree in translation and interpretation, but I started studying to be a translator, not a teacher. The opportunity came and I could go to the same school where I studied to start teaching there. And then I had a chance to be an intern at my university as well. I had this internship for 3 years. The teacher there liked me and she said, wow, you were born to be a teacher. And I am a teacher.
Wow. So you went back to the school where you learned English.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have the opportunity to work with the teacher?
My first teacher was my boss.
Oh, really?
She was my boss. And there's something interesting about that one of the lessons showed Busch Gardens. And I was amazed seeing that park. It was something completely different from what we had here in Brazil. And I said, wow, one day I want to go to this place. I had a chance to go to my first international trip to a English-speaking country when I was more than 30 years old. And then I went there to Orlando. And I was so emotional when I got to Busch Gardens. I remembered those days at school. I remembered my former boss. I sent her a message. I said, wow, I'm in front of Busch Gardens. It's a dream come true. It's something that born in my English classes. And I have to thank you because you were so amazing that first day that you made me love the classes and English. So I thank you.
Yeah, that's remarkable how much teachers can touch their students' lives, and not just at the moment while they're teaching, but for the rest of their lives, right? I can think of a couple of teachers who had that effect on me as well. So today, currently, you're teaching younger students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started, I taught adults, teenagers, and not little ones. Then I had this first experience with I think it was like a 5-year-old group, but I didn't like it.
Oh.
And then I said, well, I don't want to teach the little ones anymore. But then some years later, I started working in a different school with a different methodology.
Uh-huh.
They had these classes with cooking classes and lots of game
Right.
boards, visits to the library. And then I had a nice experience with the little ones. And I said, wow, I like it. I like the environment. I like their energy.
Because they were actually living the language.
Yeah.
Right? Not just acquiring content.
And they're not worried about, well, how does it work? Well, why do we use this? They're not worried about that. They just talk, they just learn. And I really like being with them. And I started that with like 5 years old. And then nowadays I teach 1-year-old children.
1-year-olds.
1, 2, 3 here at SEBI, from 1-year-old to the 5th grade.
Wow. So what's it like teaching 1-year-olds? I don't know if all of the teachers that are listening to us, if they've had the opportunity of teaching like really, really young learners. What's that like?
Well, in fact, many teachers, they say, well, never, please, in my life. Never I want a group like this young. But, well, we sing a lot, we play a lot, and it's so nice because sometimes they don't even speak in Portuguese as well. But when they say their first words in English, I love hearing that. We play and they learn.
And I don't think they know that they're having English class.
No, they don't. But somehow they are aware that is a different language, even when they are very young. Because sometimes, there is a word like I show them and say, a mug, and they say caneca. Okay, caneca in Portuguese, but in English we say mug. And okay, it's okay. But if I insist saying a mug, they say caneca. So they are aware it's a different language.
It's about building that rapport with them. And then, with this teacher, I speak a mug. With that teacher, I can say
that's it. That's it, yes.
I remember when I was teaching the very young ones, I had 3-year-olds, and they started saying the colors in English in the Portuguese classes. And the teacher came to complain with me. She said, they're saying the colors in English. And I said, I only have one class a day. So if they're saying it in English, it's because it's very memorable to them. I said, just have fun with it. Let them say it in English. Because they were learning both languages at the same time. So I love seeing that, how they can learn 2 things at the same time. And for them, it's something that's very natural.
And this year at SEBI, we started a new approach with the 1 to 3 years old. They have a very big space where they spend the day together. And I go there, and if they're playing, I play with them in English what they are playing, the game they are playing. If they're having a snack, I join them, I offer juice, and I ask them what they're eating. They say please, they say thank you. So the thing they're living at the moment is what I join them and we do it. We do that in English as well, and it's been a nice experience.
Yeah.
Hi. While they're taking a quick break, let's go to our top tips of today's episode. My name is Cecilia Lemus-Hamer.
And I'm Helen Allen. We both work in professional learning and development at Cambridge.
Today we're talking about sustainability, but today we're going to focus on knowledge.
Yeah, so that's one of the areas that we can focus on when we're trying to bring sustainability into the classroom. It's beyond sort of just sharing information or reading texts about the environment. It's more like, sort of what skills do learners need to understand sustainability? What concepts do they need to know? How can we help them to think more broadly about how things are interrelated in the world, that kind of thing?
In my learners, The ability to think in systems sounds so complicated, Helen.
Yeah, but it's not, right? So let's take this example of the apple and you can be the student. So I'm just going to ask you a question, all right? Simply, how is an apple connected to the things around it? How is an apple connected to the rest of the world?
Suppose the first connection is I eat apples.
Yeah.
And that apples grow from trees.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to have planted that tree.
Yes.
And somebody needs to collect the apple when it falls from the tree or take it from the tree.
And how does the apple make it from the tree to your hand?
Harvesting the apple, there's some kind of production, cleaning or sorting by size or type of apple, and it goes to the supermarket and I buy it there.
Okay, so there's lots of things involved there. So we're starting to kind of connect the apple with its, not just the environmental, but the social and economic aspects of life as well. So that apple is part of a huge system, right? It's picked, it goes onto a lorry, it goes to the supermarket, it's processed, it's bought by you. You need money to buy your apple. So at a very simple level, I mean, the kind of top tip is take an image, take a picture, take an object from your classroom and help students to explore the connections that they see. And for young learners, this might be just simply drawing pictures, drawing an apple and drawing the things that are related to the apple, the people, all that kind of thing around the outside. It might include how you eat the apple or the cultural occasions that you might use apples.
If you as a teacher, maybe if I ask my 5-year-old students that, and they might not be able to immediately make the connections, but as teachers, we can ask them questions to get them to think like you did with me.
Exactly. And it's part of that is that kind of routine thinking. It's trying to develop that skill of thinking beyond the individual item, the individual thing. It's about thinking about how it's connected into the world around us and the people around us, And I guess, sort of with young learners, you can do it in a very simple way with drawings. You can pick up on a few words. With teenagers or adult learners or people with a higher level of English, you can explore more those kind of relationships. And it's really nice. It's a really deep activity. It becomes very fruitful. And people end up with lots of things that they want to be able to say in English. So it's very motivating as well.
And that's our top tip for today.
So we've talked a little bit about your experience and the ages that you've taught. And I know that you also have sought formal instruction, right? So you have a CELTA. And how was that for you, having that formal instruction of teaching when you started teaching?
I realized language is something that you can never stop studying.
Mm-hmm.
Neither language nor education. It's something that you really need to update, take courses. And I always did that. I always invested in my studies or in my leisure, but related to language, visiting a country, I could practice, I could use my English. And so that's something that I did. And then I heard having a CELTA degree is something that counts, that people value a lot. So I took that course. It was a nice experience, hard. I studied a lot. And now I am having a postgraduate course in neuroscience in education.
Wow.
Because I want to learn more about the children development and their challenges in learning. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So you would consider yourself a lifelong learner.
Yeah, I am.
Do you like to bring that out in your students as well and getting them excited about learning the way you are?
I want to show them a relation of pleasure with the language. I think if you find something that you like in English, it will help you to be interested in learning. Mm-hmm. So that's what I usually try to bring to them, like pleasure in learning the language.
Good. That's very good advice. And finding something that you like and then do it in English, right?
Yeah.
There's probably videos or songs. You said that you used to listen to a lot of international music when you were a teenager, and
Yeah, I
that
loved
helped you.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, that helped you learn more. I've heard many cases of those, of people who used to listen to music, or even YouTube, or playing games where they acquired motivation to learn, right? And what do you see as the challenges that we have today, thinking about your post-graduation in neuroscience? What do you see as challenges for this generation when we're teaching them language?
Well, attention is something that has been an issue. They have short time of attention, and I think this increases or this decreases along the years. So it's been a challenge to engage students in class and have their attention to what is happening there, being there at that moment, at that time, in that activity, because they want to stand up all the time and touch things and talk to someone else. And I think that's been a challenge. And also with the young ones, there is something that happens because when you start learning English at a very young age, it helps you a lot in the future. But sometimes the families or even schools, they don't realize how important it is, that job that you do with the very young learners.
Right.
But then when they are older, the parents want them to talk. Hi, my child doesn't talk. So I think making people understand and realize how important that work with the very young ones is. It seems as you play all the time, yes, it's like not important, but it is a very important job.
And what would you give as an advice of what you do to help overcome those challenges?
I think something important is to know that sometimes you plan things and they don't work with that group. You have to be flexible. You have to be creative, to be fast, like to be a magician, maybe. Yeah, if you start something and it's not working with that group, maybe not that day, maybe in a different day it works, but not that day. So you start something else. You take a look at the flow. Well, do they want to dance that day? Do they want to stand up and move their bodies? So do something related to that. But maybe you prepared something that way, but they're not in the mood. They want something quiet. So I think you have to observe your students to be sensitive.
Yeah.
And feel the moment, feel how they are.
Right. That's really good advice. And because sometimes we're so stuck in our heads. No, I have to get this done. I have to do this. I have to do that. But if the students don't want to do it, they're all going to be very reluctant to do it. It's not going to be good neither for me or for them, right? So, yeah, it's very good advice. Observe your students. And because you work with such young students, and you said that you dance a lot with them and you move your body a lot, you need a lot of energy and enthusiasm. How do you keep up with that energy? And what do you do to maintain in that level of enthusiasm?
I pray. I count on a miracle. Well, that's something that I am feeling right now that I need to take care. My body is telling me that I need to exercise and take better care of my health this way because I'm getting older. It was okay before, but now sometimes my back hurts. Sometimes I don't have that energy. So it's something that I am starting to pay attention and looking for some activity that I enjoy doing and I can do to take care of myself. It's something important to do, but I haven't been doing that.
Yeah. I think that's in general, teachers, we take care so many students and we have so much to do, but it's important to remember, oh yeah, I have to take care of myself so I can keep on doing these things, right?
Yeah, and we have to find a way because you spend so much energy in your job that when you get home, you were exhausted. Sometimes I leave school and I get in my car and I don't want to turn the radio on. I want silence. I'm exhausted. And I don't find any courage to start exercising. But you have to find a way in the morning, maybe before coming to work. We have to do that. It's important.
Yeah. So good for you for realizing that. And if you're listening to us and you also think, I should do that too, maybe it's a good time to start as well. So we have amazing teachers for a long time, right?
The sooner the better.
Yeah. And what would you say is your favorite part of teaching? I know there's a lot of, it takes a lot out of you, but what's your favorite part? What keeps you going?
I like this feeling that I'm taking part in that person's history. Before you and your colleagues, of course, that person couldn't speak a language. And then their lives will be different because of something that you took part in. So I like this. I like dealing with people and how different they are, especially with the young ones. I say if one day I knew that someone said, well, I had that English teacher. Her name was Natali. She was, well, it will make my life really happy because I consider my job a purpose, not only a job, you know? So I think that's what I like the most about my job. It's a purpose for my life.
We have no idea when we're teachers how we are impacting their lives. And then that moment when they're going to come back and say, oh, you helped me reach my goals. You helped me do what I wanted to do, right? We even have a segment on Cambridge that's called That Feeling When.
Nice.
So what is it for you? What brings out that feeling when something happens in your classroom or with your students, or if you can remember a specific situation of when you got that feeling that you were fulfilling your purpose? Can you think of a situation?
I start with the children when they are 1 year old, and then I keep with them up to 8 years old here at SEBI. So I can see how they develop language. They started as very
babies.
They didn't have many words, and then they start saying words. They start saying sentences, and then they are speaking. It's really nice to see that, to realize their development.
So getting to see that evolution is what brings out that feeling for you.
Yes, and also their feeling about myself, about the classes, about English. That's something that I learned to like, to love. And when I can see they're having the same path, that they enjoy the teachers at school, including myself, and the language is something that wow, it's nice.
Can you think of a specific student that you saw that they had that enthusiasm in learning?
He was a 4-year-old boy, and yeah, he had some issues with behavior. Sometimes he couldn't follow the rules in his classroom, and his teacher used to tell him, well, if you don't behave well, you're not going to have English classes. It's not PE, it's not playground, it's English classes. And oh no, English, no, please. He loved the English classes. It was a nice experience because Well, it's not very common,
No, yeah.
They say
Normally
like,
they don't want to miss on recess
yeah,
or PE, but he didn't want to miss English
the
class.
English classes.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Good. Okay, now we're going to have a segment that's called Quickfire. What one thing couldn't you live without in your classroom?
Playtime.
Playtime.
Yeah.
Ah, nice. Morning lessons or afternoon lessons?
Morning lessons.
Mm.
I'm not a morning person, but morning lessons.
Really?
Yeah, because of them.
If you weren't an English teacher, what would be your dream job?
That's something that always comes to my mind. I think I would like to something creative. I don't know what. I have no idea, but something that I had to use my imagination and create things because I really like that part of the job.
Uh-huh. What's your go-to snack?
I love chocolate
Mm.
or ice cream.
Good. And what's your worst teaching habit?
I repeat a lot. That's
Like when you want to grab their
too bad.
attention?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say, Too bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then as we start wrapping up the session, this episode, if you could give a piece of advice for someone that's just starting out as a teacher, what would it be?
I'd say talk to people, talk to other teachers. It's always nice to listen to others' experience because you realize you are not alone. You're not the only one facing that specific problem. And people have different ways to deal with challenges. So maybe you identify with something or a situation that you can take advantage of it. And I think listening to others is something that, and studying also.
Ah, yes. That's something that you've never stopped, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So good advices. Talk to people
Yeah.
or listen to the Grow podcast, right?
Yeah, sure.
Where you can listen to lots of experience such as your own, yeah?
Sure.
And keep on studying.
Sure.
Yeah, great. Well, a big thank you to you,
Thank you.
Natali. It was such a pleasure having a chat here at Centro Educacional Brandão. And I really enjoyed the way that you connect yourself, your full person, I think, body, mind, and soul to teaching, and that you show that in your enthusiasm, in your commitment. And it was a real pleasure listening to your whole experience from a learner to a teacher. So thank you so much. And if you also enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to the Grow podcast and be sure to leave us a review. We would love to know what you thought about this episode. Cambridge is where your world grows.